Vayigash. Okay, so last week's answer, last week's question was, Parshat Miketz. The question was, how long was Yosef in the house of Potiphar? So, the prize goes to Saba Reichman of Los Angeles, California, for pointing out the Seder HaDoros. It says in Beis Alafim Reish Yod Zayin, it says the Shita of the Seder Olam, Parak Beis, is that he was 12 months in the house of Potiphar. 12 months. That's the answer. 12 months. So 12 months is what the Midrashim say, like Tanchuma Vayeshev Ches. It says, Vahi Chidaber El Yosef Yom Yom. That was, it says about Pasuk in Parshat Vayeshev. That's how the wife of Potiphar spoke to Yosef every day. So what's Yom Yom? We learn it from the Pasukim that Yom Yom always means 12 months. So that shows that he was in the house of Potiphar for 12 months. Even Medrash Rabbah Pei Vav even says. It says that he was for 12 years in the house of Potiphar. Yeah, and the Farshim change the Girsa to really means to say 12 months.
Oh.
Like the Midrashim.
Yeah, and what really makes sense if it was actually 12 years.
Yeah. So actually there's a way to figure out that he was in Beis Potiphar for 1 year. There's a way to figure it out. Because in Shemois Rabbah, if you take a look at Shemois Rabbah, Siman Zayin, in So if you take a look in Shemois Rabbah, Parsha Zayin, Siman Aleph, it says Yosef was supposed to be 10 years in jail. Why? Because he was Motzei Diba, when he brought Dibas and Ra Levian, he was Motzei Diba on 10 brothers. So he's connected that, he gets 10 years in jail.
Which is very interesting.
He should get 10 years in jail.
You might ask, what about the part that there was Shifgais? That wasn't 10 brothers.
Oh.
All 10 brothers. What about the sons of the Shifgais?
Interesting.
So the older brothers were making fun of them. So you could answer, maybe it's talking about Ivrim and Achai, but that one. Or Chashin Alarayas.
Oh, yeah.
It has to be.
Maybe, interesting, yeah. Yeah. So because of that, he gets 10 years of jail. So, but then, since he said Ki'im Zakartani, he said in Parak Meh Pasuk of Yodalid, Yosef said to Sarah Mashkim, to remember me, he wasn't relying on the Kodesh Baruch Hu. He was just relying on the Sarah Mashkim to tell to Parai, because then he got 2 years added. Yeah. So that's what the pasuk means. So it says Vahi Miketz Shosayim Yomim, and was after 2 years. After those 2 years, the additional 2 years. So the total was 12 years in jail. So now he was 12 years in jail from that Shemois Rabbah. Now when he came into the time, he was 17 years old. When he stood before Parai, the pasuk says he was 30 years old. That leaves 13 years before he stood before Parai, right?
Yeah.
So now, we know 12 of those years were in jail. So what's the extra year? 1 year in the house of Potiphar. There you go.
Yeah.
You can actually figure it out based on that medrash.
That's probably how the medrash knows.
Yeah, but how does the Shemois Rabbah know that? It's 12 years.
12 months.
Yeah,
no,
okay.
It's only 12 months.
Yeah.
Also, it can be, it's right, it seems right that the Gersa really is 12 months.
Yeah, all the Farshim changes that, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, now, first things first, Parshat Vayigash, let's begin with the first word. What's the first word of Parshat Vayigash? Vayigash. So, the word Vayigash. In Elia Rabbah, it says in Orach Chaim, he writes in Orach Chaim, Siman Tafresh Pei Hey, the Pri Megadim brings him, in Ois Dalet. The Eli Rabbah in Ois Dalet. He says, when Rosh Chodesh Shvat, when it falls on Wednesday, not this year though, don't worry, this year it's on Thursday, I think.
Phew,
you'll see. When Rosh Chodesh Shvat falls on Wednesday, that year, that winter, Rosh Chodesh Shvat is in winter, so that winter will be very cold, very snowy winter. And how do we know this? There's a siman for it. Look at the word Vayigash. Look at the first word in this parsha. Vayigash. Vav Yod Gimel Shin. That's Rosh Teves. Yom Vav Gimel Shvat. Yom Vav on Friday is the third day of Shvat. Now if you calculate, you'll get that, in other words, Wednesday is the first day of Shvat. So Yom Vav Gimel Shvat, Yom Vav is Gimel Shvat, the Rosh Hashanah of Vayigash that shows that winter will be very cold winter.
For you.
And in the notes, the notes of Rav Avraham Azulai, who's actually the grandfather of the Chidah, he has notes on Banam. They recently printed it in Sholoma Aaron edition. They printed it on the page. He has notes, and he says the winter in the year 4,525, which is in the early Gainim in the English year 765. This happened. It happened. The Rosh Hashanah was the 4th day of the week, but it actually happened like that. It wasn't cold at all that winter. But then a few years later, 3 years later, in the year 768, it also happened, and that year, it was a very strong, extremely cold winter. In Parshas Vayechi of that year, the river completely froze. The river just froze, and people were walking on it.
That's like ice skating.
It says, yeah. Until it was for so much of the year. It was such a cold year until Parshas Tezriah Mitzayra, which was all the way Vav Iyar, late in the spring, later in the spring. Parshas Tezriah Mitzayra on Shabbos Kodesh Parshas Tezriah Mitzayra. That was when finally the lake melted. That's how much it was, like most of the year. Large portion of the year, and all the Zakanim, all the elders of the city, no one remembered such a thing. That was until Vav Iyar, and then he also lists a few other years, other different cases. The river froze till Vav Adar.
We threw out the winter coats already.
Yeah,
it's usually hot in Florida.
Yeah,
I didn't see the weather forecasting predicting that.
Yeah. So it also says like rivers froze till Vav Adar, and the waters were Amos, and other times, and the same thing, that Rosh Shvat was on Yom Daled, it still was cold till Chaf Teves, and rivers froze for a long time. So that's what you can see from the first word of this parsha.
Yes. Okay.
So also the Tzemach David in Chelek Beis, he says in the year 4,523, which is around that year, it says that winter, it's also like time to go in, that winter, it was very cold. It was never like this. It was, because of the cold, many thousands of people and animals, they all died. Because of the extreme cold, the waters of the Yam HaTzvaini, the northern sea, the waters of it, even 100 parsois, about 100 parsois down to the sea, it all froze, all turned to ice. And some places, he says, the ice was 30 feet thick, at 30 amos thick. You know how many feet that is? 45, 50
That's
feet.
like 55 feet around.
Maybe, yeah. Okay, now just quickly, where is Asar B'Teves in Parshas Vayigash? Where can we find Asar B'Teves in Parshas Vayigash? We know today is Asar B'Teves, tomorrow is Shabbos Kodesh Parshas Vayigash. Yeah, maybe.
Probably.
It
has to do with it, probably.
Yeah, so the pasuk Parshas Vayigash says, Memdal Chav Ches, Vayetzer Yachad Meiti V'Omer Ach Taroif Tarav V'Loy Reisiv Ad Heina. Yehuda tells Yosef. Vayetzer Yachad Meiti, it was Taroif Tarav V'Loy Reisiv Ad Heina. Okay, so in the final parak,
There we go.
in the final parak of Megillas Tainis, it says, so on Teves, in the final parak of Megillas Tainis, parak Yud Gimel, it lists all the Tainis that the Chacham were Kaveh Tainis, many in the year. So there are actually 3 days in a row in Teves that are all Tainis. Ches, Tes, and Yud Teves. We all do Yud Teves, but even Ches and Tes are Tainis. Ches, we know the Torah was written in Yevoni for Talmei Melech. What's Tes Teves? Yeah. And what's Tes Teves? So Yud Teves is the siege of Yerushalayim. Tes Teves is the Megillas Tainis. It says Rabbi Seinu didn't write what exactly happened in it. So this is in also in Shulchan Aruch, Orach Chaim Siman Tov Kov Pei. It brings also a list of Tainos.
It'll be very weak if we fasted all the days and it does Tainis.
Yeah. So it also brings this. It also says we don't know what happened that day. They didn't write. They didn't write what happened that day. It also says in Shulchan Aruch. So the Taz asked him this. It says big kasha, big tzarach ian. Doesn't it say in Slichos? Take a look in Slichos for Asar B'Teves. It says Taroif Taraf boy Hanoisin Imar Shefer who Ezra HaSofer. It says on that day, it's talking about Tes Teves. In the Slichos Ezkira, the first Slicha of Asar B'Teves, it says on that day, the Noisein Imar Shefer, the one who gives words of Nevuah, he was mauled, he was killed. He died. He is Ezra HaSofer. So the Taz asked, doesn't say there. Why don't they say that that's the day that Ezra HaSofer died? So yeah, so that's the day that so Tes Teves is the day of the Yortzai of Ezra HaSofer.
Wow.
And in Megillas Tainis over there it says that in Tosfos Chadashim, the Parish Tosfos Chadashim in it says actually that one Gadol said it's not referring to it's not intending to mean the day that Ezra HaSofer died. It really means that's actually the day, a Tainis. Why? Because of the day that he said he heard from one Gadol. That's the day that Yeshu HaNotzri was born. Yoshka was born on that day on Tes Teves. And the Chachamim saw how many tzaros would end up coming out, and all through generations, how many tzaros to Yisrael would come out of him.
Yes.
That's the reason for Tainus.
Okay. Ready for the question of the week?
Almost. We just need to connect this now. Okay, we just need to connect it to Parshas Vayigash. How does it connect to Parshas Vayigash? Okay. How does it connect to Parshas Vayigash? So now we go back to our pasuk. So now we read through the pasuk. One went out of me, left from me. So perhaps this is referring to Ezra and Nehemiah. Ezra Sofer, Ezra Kohen, and Nehemiah ben Chakaliah, and they died on Tes Teves, which is Parshas Vayigash. It's about around the time of Tes Teves. Vayetze, he died. He left. The one left from me. So earlier on in Parak Mebeis Pasuk Chav Gimel, Pasuk Chav Zion in Bereshis, the one ha'echad vayiftach ha'echad as sakai. Rashi says it's referring to Levi. Who's ha'echad? Ha'echad is referring to Levi. So Ezra Sofer is from Shevet Levi. Ezra Sofer is from Shevet Levi because it says in Ezra Parak Zion Pasuk Aleph, it says it lists many generations. All Ezra ben Sroya, Ben Azariah, Ben Chalakia, Ben Pinchas. Okay, it says all different generations. Ben Pinchas, Ben Lazar, Ben Aharon, HaKayin. So it's from Aaron, and Aaron is of course from Shevet Levi, from Levi. So Ha'echad is Levi. Vayetze Echad Meiti, that's Levi, the descendant of Levi. V'omer Ach Taroif Taraf. And I said he is mold. So in Slichos, it calls them the Slicha calls him Taraf, clearly based on this pasuk. Also, the Gematria now using Gematrias, Taraf is the Gematria Hu Ezra in HaKolah. And Hu Ezra is actually the last one of the pasuk in Ezra, Parak Zayin. And Parak Zayin, pasuk Vav. And Vayetze Ha'echad, the Gematria is Hu Nehemiah. He is Nehemiah.
Okay. So
now question of the week.
Okay, phew. So the pasuk, as we know, the pasuk says, "Say Echav lokach chamisha anoshim." From some of his brothers, he took 10 men. So, who were those 5 brothers?
Yeah, who were those 10 men? 5 men. Okay, good question. Okay, thank you for listening to Torah Talk Parshas Vayigash. Whoever has to answer first. Whoever submits the answer first will be announced in next week's Torah Talk. Okay.